Shabbat. Shabbat for three. Bingo!
Bud will get it for the win. He is hard to believe.
Here's Jordan.
Yes. The Magic, a 360 turn with the dribble. Magic down the middle. Gives underneath to Worthy. Slam dunk.
Third in the corner. Double fake.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another post-game recap here on Dime Dropper 2022 Conference Finals. Before we get started, please make sure to subscribe on YouTube at Dime Dropper Podcast, Apple Podcasts, follow us on Spotify, and of course to follow us on all social media platforms at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Dime Dropper Pod. For tonight's episode, I'm very happy to bring on another member of my actual family, blood-related family. We have my first cousin once removed for if you want to really get technical with it, but also the first cousin of a previous guest, cousin Showtime. If you were really here before the 2021 season, you remember that episode. My cousin Amir Motamini. How we doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on.
And as you guys can see, he's a Heat fan, but he grew up in California, so we're gonna need the history of how you became a Heat fan.
Yeah, so technically I was born in Pennsylvania, but I moved to Fresno, California when I was 5. So grew up in California. And so just like any kid in 1991, so I initially started off as a Bulls fan. So technically a Michael Jordan fan, but was a Bulls fan for 7 or 8 years or so until he retired in 1998. So had no team. I mean, in Fresno, we pretty much were televised all NorCal Bay Area sports. So I did grow up a Niner fan. Wasn't a big baseball fan until about 12 years ago. So I am a Giants fan. So fan of the
Terrible.
Bay Area.
Disgusting.
I mean, the two teams I hate the most, luckily you only like one of them, which are the Dodgers. Los Angeles Lakers, the team I hate the most across any single sport.
Why didn't you like the Warriors or the Sacramento Kings?
Michael Jordan.
He was just that easy to like.
I mean, he's the GOAT, right? I mean, he was the Kobe, he was the LeBron he was the Magic of my generation. So naturally, like I just gravitated towards Michael Jordan, like most folks did across, the United States. Regardless if you were growing up in New York, I had friends who were living in New York, and they had the Knicks or the Nets to root for, but they were still Michael Jordan fans. So started off as a Bulls fan in 98, and then he retired. And so I was, I think, 12 years old at the time, 13. And my older brother is 11 years older than me. So he was 24. He was also a Bulls fan growing up. And so just family, typically it's like where you live or family or like of a specific player, is the reason why you choose a select team. So I was a Jordan fan regardless of my brother, right? He was that transcending, but he also was a Jordan fan. 98, some reason, Alonzo Mourning. That was my brother's second favorite player. So when Jordan, so he has loyalty issues because he was an adult. I was a kid, so I have an excuse. But he basically was like, hey, Alonzo Mourning's my second favorite player. He was a Heat fan. I was like, all right, Jordan's gone. I don't like.
Nothing about the Warriors appealed to you, being around that and being able to watch their games on local television?
I honestly never watched the Warriors. Honestly, I watched some. Like
just trash or just not exciting, or you had no interest in it.
I just had no interest because I was a Bulls fan, so I'm not gonna.
So you only watch Jordan games, really?
No, I watched like NBA. Like I would watch Warrior games. I mean, I was still a kid. I was still like playing basketball, like playing soccer, hide and go seek, just hanging out with my friends, like riding bikes and stuff. So I wasn't able to watch every single game, like because I was busy, but. I mean, I definitely did watch Warrior games because I still loved the game. And of course, I watched what they televised, which was obviously every single Warrior game on the local channel. So, I mean, I do remember like the Run TMC kind of stuff back in the day, Mullen and Hardaway, and was Rich Mitchman on the team as well. So, yeah, for sure. So, I watched them, but not as diligently as I watched, Michael Jordan. So yeah, I mean, my brother's like, I'm a Heat fan. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll be a Heat fan too, just because you are, with no context, with no reasoning besides my brother likes them. And that was in 1998, and that's 24 years now. I've been a Heat fan, and they've only been in a franchise I think, since 1989. Right.
Yeah.
So I've pretty much been a Heat fan for almost the entire existence of the organization. So,
You been to a game out there?
actually, so yeah, I've only been to one. I've seen the Heat many times in like LA, right?
Yeah.
So I worked for the LA Clippers, little plug there.
Yeah.
And in 2010 to 11, I was
Blake Griffin. Hey, you gotta tell us the great moment about the Blake Griffin against dunking on Kendrick Perkins, man. How was that?
oh man, that was ridiculous, as well as the one with DeAndre Jordan on Brandon Knight. I was there for that game as well. I think there was another one on like Timothy Mozgov that I think I was there.
That was ridiculous. He had like several dunks in that game that he just destroyed Mozgov and Gallinari.
100%. Blake show was amazing. And also it's funny. So I was in sales, so I was selling sponsorships, season tickets, suites, and so I was selling before the Chris Paul trade. I was pitching Blake Griffin, Eric Gordon, right, Randy freaking Foy, right,
Yeah.
like just like hope that like Blake Griffin, he missed his first year because he had that injury off that dunk, and it was like, hey, Blake showed that he is athletic and he's exciting and he could be a good prospect. And so selling that hope, and then all of a sudden, little insider tip, right? Insider NBA. We got that news that trade was rescinded. All my Faker fans out there were so pissed, so excited.
Wow, so that's something that you and the Great have in common. You both call them the Fakers.
Oh, 100%. So all the friends excited, Chris Paul, Kobe, and luckily that didn't happen. Thank you, David Stern, for rigging that. That was amazing. But then we got this call from our front office saying, "Hey, can't say anything yet. Don't publicize this. Not public information. We're getting Chris Paul." And we were just like, "Holy shit! Like what? Like mind blown! Like what?" And like,
Clippers about to get this guy for his prime. Like, oh my god!
I was
a
calling
great time.
I was calling businesses, former season ticket holders before that, trying to pitch Blake Griffin and Gordon, and like Randy Foy. And then all of a sudden, when the news broke, my phone was ringing off the hook, and everybody was just buying season tickets left and right. Right, I became like a stockbroker. I feel like I was in Boiler Room, like just picking up the phone, just slanging penny stocks, and
That's amazing.
the rest is history, man. But
Back to the Heat.
back to the Heat. Back to the team of the hour, baby. And I also call them team to beat, Miami Heat, because it rhymes. And it rhymes for a reason, baby, because we are the team to beat right now. So let's go.
D Wade era was fun. Did D Wade become your second favorite player of all time after Mike?
He became my second favorite player 100% after Mike. And he might, in theory, be tied with Jordan or maybe ahead, just because I've
Yeah,
been
you're a Heat fan.
I've been a Heat fan for
Sorry,
24. Yeah, I've been a Heat fan for my whole life, right? Like I don't have Dwayne Wade posters, and like I was 18 or 19 when he came into the league, so it was a little different. I had a million Michael Jordan posters on my wall, but at that point, didn't idolize Wade as much, but I did idolize him as like as a fan favorite. But yeah, it's funny. Just every year, it's so funny. People still ask me, like, "You're a Heat fan? Like, where are you from? California? Like, why? Like LeBron, Shaq?" And I was like, "Hey, man, if I'm a Heat fan because of LeBron, what kind of logic is that? I'd be a Laker. I'd be a Cavs fan at the time or a Lakers fan, right? Because I would follow him.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I go before Wade, right? Then Wade transcended the organization, right, and helped LeBron win his first few rings, right? Maybe taught him how to win. Some people may say so. So yeah, definitely.
He had that it factor, D Wade, when he came. I think he played multiple years in college, and he just had it. I was a LeBron fan from when I was young, and I was a little bit like, I want to say jealous in a way of like what Wade. I knew Wade had something. It was like he had experience. He played like he had been there. He also was clutcher, made more, better in the mid range. But anyway, so let's get to tonight's game: the Miami Heat and the Celtics, Game 3. The Celtics destroyed you guys last game, and you guys came out with the response of a championship-like team. A lot of the conversation was surrounded around Bam Adebayo only shooting 6 shots in Game 2, and this game we probably saw maybe the best playoff game of his entire career. You can talk about if you agree with that, but the way he was playing offensively, going at Al Horford to start, making some really skillful moves in the mid post, turns over the right shoulder, jump hooks with the left hand, up and unders. I mean, what were you thinking of how he started, and what did you think of this game overall for him relative to his playoff career?
I mean, Bubble Bam
was amazing.
Bubble Bam showed up tonight, right? That was his breakout. That was his first year as a starter. He was in Hassan Whiteside's shadow. His second year, I kept saying, this guy's going to become something, right? I watch every single Heat game for the most part, maybe 90% of all games for the last decade or so. And I'm like, this guy is reminding me of like an Amari Stoudemire-esque higher ceiling Kevin Garnett type of player. If he can develop his mid-range.
Higher ceiling than KG?
No, his ceiling is like a KG. I
don't know. That's going to be – well, do you still think that?
No, I was renouncing the hell out of that,
Okay,
especially after the last few seasons. But like after the bubble, though, that was his first season, right? And he broke out. Like his best playoff series was against the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. He averaged 22, 11, like 5 assists. He was objective. If they had the participation, awards like they have now, the Eastern Conference, and they're gonna have a Western Conference MVP, he would have won that award that year. And he's been absent, especially in the playoffs, right? And then in the regular season at times, like he's been passive. Like he's not that alpha type of scorer. Like, I mean, he is a great playmaker and a great defensive player first and foremost. But he's very capable of putting up numbers, but he's just never been aggressive and looking for a shot. And there's some nights where he's like, hey, I got to have some pride and I got to just like, there's no play set up, right? Like Spoelstra doesn't do a great job of setting up plays for Bam. Jimmy Butler doesn't typically set up Bam, right? A few players do, which we can talk about, but I just love the mindset that he heard all the noise of just like, hey, like if you're a max player, you earned your contract. You would have got that anywhere else from any other team, but we need you to be a scorer. And he's digressed in the playoffs this year, regular season as well, where there's times where he's like only shooting 5 to 10 shots per game. He was averaging around 15 or so per game this year. And in the first 2 games of this year, he shot 10 total shots. He was averaging 5 shots per game. And he had, in the first 2 games, he had 0 shots against, I know Williams missed tonight, and Horford missed 1 game, but against the 2 bigs, Horford and Williams, he had 0 shot attempts. And he was guarded by Smart at times and Jaylen Brown, and we were getting the ball in the post in game 2, and he had 3 shots on Brown. He was 1 for 3, but instead of realizing his size, his athleticism, his strength on Brown, he was backing him down, but doing a step back kind of fade away close to the free throw line, and he was 1 for 3. And so in order for him to have success, me and other talking heads and fans of the Miami Heat said, hey, he needs to play, especially if Lowry's not playing, he needs to play face up, right, top of the key, and he needs to either take that shot because they were still giving him space, just like Brook Lopez did last year when the Bucks swept him, and he wasn't taking those shots. But we're like, if they give you that space, you either need to take that pull-up mid-range shot at the free throw line, or you need to freaking take Al Horford off the dribble because he's 35 years old and you're 24 years old. You have 11 years of youth. Take him off the freaking dribble. And he did that. I mean, like, he obviously played in the post as well, but he played much more aggressively, right? When he had Jaylen Brown on him, he didn't do a fadeaway. He did a jump hook on top of him, or he took a couple extra dribbles and got even closer to the hoop, made some layups. And then, of course, Kyle Lowry. I know we'll get into that in a second, but there's no one better than him, and even Hero when Hero wasn't suspect, and that's another conversation we could have later today. But, Hero, Lowry, and then Duncan Robinson, who's obviously been MIA out of the rotation through the DHO, right? Typical play with him, and Robinson was the dribble handoff, and, Robinson still great shooter. 38% was just like the worst of his career, which is, kind of amusing to think. He would get rushed at because he still has gravity, right? All throughout the season. Even if he plays today, he played a few minutes that weren't really meaningful, but like if he starts the next game, he's still going to get gravity, and he knows how to slip and pass to Bam off that pick and roll. And so there's only a few guys, and but without that, he's like, have been embarrassed, and I need to get this on my own. Like he's a star. He's an all-star. He's not a superstar, but he's like, I got to have some pride, and I got to be aggressive and get my own, regardless who's on the floor.
Yeah, he was fantastic. That was well explained. And Kyle Lowry, I was going to get into that next as you were going there. Kyle Lowry, I thought, in the beginning of the game, he did a good job getting them in transition a little bit. He hit a 3 to start the game. But we also got to talk about the Heat's defense on the other end. You guys typical switching a lot, basically everything, and did a great job staying in front of the ball. Jason Tatum had a really tough night. Jimmy Butler was getting into those passing lanes, getting steals. You were forcing turnovers on them all night long. And Marcus Smart, Al Horford were struggling. Illegal screens, offensive fouls, missing jump hooks. Smart was forcing threes and just throwing up weird runners. And Tice wasn't really doing anything. He was just kind of taking up space. And they really seemed to miss the Time Lord on both ends of the floor. Definitely had his lob threat on offense, and then obviously his rim protection on the defensive end and being able to maybe do a better job than than Horford on Bam. And that's one thing Horford is not a slouch on defense, even though he is 35, and Bam did a hell of a job sticking it to him in the first quarter. But JB, the only Celtic, in my opinion, who showed up in the first quarter. What did you think of the defense that you saw and the other parts of the team besides Bam in the first? You guys were up 20 points after the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, I think we did a really good job on the perimeter. And so similar to Boston, like on paper, we have some really good individual defensive stoppers. But just as a team, we rotate really well. And just like the Celtics, we're also really good at defending the three and avoiding allowing teams to take the corner three, which is like the most effective. And so I think we at times blitzed Jason, especially in the first quarter, blitzed Tatum and Brown and got Horford and Smart to take those shots. Horford, I think, shot better than Smart. He had like 3 threes, I think. I think Smart maybe made 1 or 2. But we pretty much were just saying, hey, like the role players need to beat us, right? So it's not like Luka. We didn't do no box and one or anything like that, and left the role players wide open. But I think we switched well, had good perimeter defense, and Jason Tatum, had a hard time and started off really slow. And Kyle Lowry, I mean, his hamstring. I was scared at first when he ran out to the locker room, and I didn't realize that he was just going back to like the stationary bike to keep his hammy warm. But he's a pit bull, like he still moves pretty well for a 36-year-old, and he had switched on to Horford a few times and Tice, and he does a really good job of fronting bigs and making them uncomfortable. He had a couple steals in the first quarter, I believe. PJ Tucker is just obviously one of those dogs. Had an obviously big impact on offense, but was that defensive presence, as always, definitely helped out. And then another player who did really well later, I think it was the third quarter, because I don't think he really played much in the first half, was Victor Oladipo. Like he was a -5 technically, because I think just Jaylen Brown just went off in the end of the third and the fourth quarter, hitting a bunch of shots and threes. But he had 4 steals. He made Brown look uncomfortable, right? He was having trouble getting by him.
Unreal on defense, Victor Oladipo in the second half. Unreal. But one thing I also wanted to say, besides that you guys forced a lot of turnovers, what you said, running them off the line, you guys clearly made it seemed like it was a clear emphasis tonight, because obviously they got really hot from deep in game 2, and you guys, the closeouts were just unbelievable. The rotations, they had to make, the secondary third pass, you made them go to option B, C, D, and it was just an amazing first quarter, amazing first half. But you guys slipped up a little bit in that second quarter towards the end. Jason Tatum and Al Horford started getting going. And did you start to get nervous a little bit there that you gave him a little momentum going into half, or you feel all right still?
I felt a little nervous naturally, just because Miami Heat basketball is torturous, and just like the San Francisco Giants, just like the San Francisco 49ers, like all my teams that I like for some reason are just super torturous. They're good at getting leads, but they're not good at holding them. And so that shot that Tatum made was, huge in terms of momentum. But like, I wasn't too worried, because again, Tyler was taking some bad shots. We were rushing our offense, and so I knew that would improve. And I just knew as long as our defense was stout and they weren't making their threes, that 15-point cushion should be good. So I was like, okay, 21 plus in the first, -6 in the half, right? We're up 15. We broke
-6 in the second.
Second, excuse me, yeah. And then we're even in the third. The whole time I was like, break even. After the 20.1 lead, I'm like, even. So I was like, -6. Okay, fine. Break even from that point. They were even. They went into the fourth quarter up 15. I'm like, just don't be -1, right? Just don't let them get that 16 points, right, to our 15 or whatever that -1 would be. So I was a little nervous, and also there was the sixth man, and I'm not talking about Tyler Hero, but the zebras there. So
They were there was a lot of tweets about that. I've seen a lot. The free throw disparity tonight was
atrocious. I'm biased, but I'm not completely biased. But like, and this is again me going back to a '90s child, like NBA fan, like the NBA, and I'll say this all the time, is so insanely soft, and it's like almost unwatchable. As a super fan, I'm like, it is just there's so many unnecessary whistles. There's so many unnecessary reviews of flagrant fouls. It's so inconsistent. Also, and there's so many weak fouls. Jimmy Butler gets weak ass fouls. Also, he gets some real ones, but I'm not biased.
And then somebody will get clearly hit at the rim and they don't call it.
And they don't call it. Like literally, I'm like, I'm not stupid. Like Jimmy Butler did not get fouled on that play. You know what I mean? But according to NBA rules, he got fouled. But I can't remember in this NBA any team that went into the fourth quarter down 27-5 in free throws. Like utterly insane. And it wasn't like the worst calls ever, but it just felt like the home team was getting that whistle.
Calls, classic playoff basketball.
And there was like one makeup call like at the end, and like it was 27-5. It ended up being like 30 something to 16, and that's only because of the last minute and 47 seconds the Heat were up, and they had to play the foul game essentially, right? So like we only made up those free throws, and they made up. There's like a Victor Oladipo and one where Williams did not even touch his freaking eyelash, and they called it because they had to make up for it, which I hate. Like I hate the whole makeup call aspect. I hate the superstar.
That's always existed though, the makeup calls.
Yeah, so I mean, like I was nervous, but I was more nervous about the refs. And like the refs have been doing this all throughout the playoffs. It's just like ruining momentum. I feel like just to get a team back into the game. It seems like that's how I felt. But overall, I mean, I'm so happy we gutted it out. That 6-point lead was torturous.
I also wanted to say the Celtics weren't switching as much themselves, which was kind of surprising to me. A lot of playing drop coverage or more drop coverage in the second half, but a lot of hedging. And you guys were making all the right passes, making the pocket pass to Bam. You make the extra swing and getting a lot of open shots. And I mean, you guys didn't shoot that great from three, but it felt like you guys were making all the right plays though, right? Getting easy baskets in the first half.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, having Lowry back in, our point guard with championship experience, all-star, and having him look healthy. Like, look at him. He looked like 90%, right? And that's all I could ask for. And he was putting people in the right spots. He was putting Bam in the right spot. Everybody was just making that extra pass. The times where the Celtics did come back without the refs' assistance was when the ball was stagnant and we were taking contested jump shots, which has been a problem in the first two games where Vincent or Hero they get the switch when it rarely happened, and they're taking a contested shot over like a Horford or a Jaylen Brown. And those are our two shorter guards, and length has been a trouble for players like Hero specifically. But just really good ball movement. Bam Adebayo had 6 assists in the first quarter, right? So he had some really good vision and some good passes in the first half as well. So
I want to talk about the news that we got to start the third quarter, and that was that Jimmy Butler was out with a knee injury for the rest of the game. What were you thinking there?
First, I was just confused, but then when they said inflammation, I was like, oh, shit. So that happened, I guess, in the first round against the Hawks, and he missed that one game. And I was nervous because of that, and I was just more concerned of, like, I didn't see anything. Was it like a non-contact injury? And just knowing no one has showed up besides, I mean, the first quarter, we had some guys show up, but
felt good. You could still gut it out.
Amazing. Like, it's just super impressive. Not only did we bounce back, but
I'm saying, did you feel good at the time that you could still gut it out?
Yes.
Okay.
In like in a biased way, but yes, but like because of the depth. And so Victor Oladipo, he's played like 24.
Unbelievable how he was moving his feet, active hands, guarding the best players. He looked like Drew Holiday out there at times tonight on D.
Yeah, so like, but going back, so he played 10 regular season games, maybe 12. He's played like in 8 of the 11 playoff games or whatever number games we played so far. So like under 20 games. When Jimmy missed one game in the first round against the Hawks, because
Game
the Hawks,
5, that was the game that Oladipo came back and showed everybody that he still has some stuff.
that's I didn't expect that scoring because it was a second half and it was against a Boston Celtics defense and not an atrocious Hawks defense. But knowing that we have a guy capable, he started for Jimmy Butler and he played 15 games at that point. Off multiple surgeries, quad injuries, and he had like 23 points and like helped us win an impactful game in that first round. So I was like, okay. I was nervous. I was scared. I was pissed. I'm like, here we freaking go again. And I thought Victor will step up. And I mean, he did on the defensive end. He didn't step up on an offensive perspective. But again, the reason why I didn't get too worried in like my heart of hearts is that depth. And we're so deep. And we have players like Oladipo who can step up. Max Strus, even though he's a starter.
Played very well tonight, in my opinion, those Strus.
Big shot in the fourth quarter, but also overall 4 for 7 or whatever it was.
And pretty decent. I mean, they were attacking him on defense, but he still has those moments where you just see how strong he kind of is, relative to a Duncan Robinson or a Hero. I think he holds his own.
Yeah, and he's improved in the system. Like he's just like, if you want to be on this team, you have to. If you want to stay in the rotation, right, or if you want to get minutes, you have to grow and develop. And players like him and Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin this year, 2-way contract.
Caleb Martin was making a good impact too in the game.
First quarter, yeah, he had 8 points, 3 for 4, had some steals, nice and one rebound off a miss, and yeah, just like the depth, shows up at times when we need it, and we have players like again, Depot off the bench, Hero, which is just, gosh, that guy is just, I'm losing faith in that guy. We could talk about that and how I don't think he deserves a max contract anymore. But like, I know it's like the top 7, especially the top 5 are the most important when it comes to the playoffs. The superstars play the most minutes, so they're the most impactful, but they still need to rest. There's still 8 to 10 minutes for the most part where the stars need to rest. And players like Pritchard coming off the bench or Williams Thies is all the Celtics have, but we have a Hero who's been absent. If we had the Hero that was the 6th man of the year, I would be extremely confident and say that we're the favorites to win the title, but I don't think that's the case yet. But we have a Hero, we have a Depot off the bench, we have a Gabe Vincent that's off the bench now that Lowry's healthy, right? And he's been our second best player in the first 2 games. He's an undrafted D-leaguer who's literally was helping Jimmy the most in the first 2 games, averaging like 15 points a game. So I think it was just the depth that kept me a little calm, even though I was still scared and pissed off that like our superstar Jimmy, who's objectively the best player, I would say, in this series.
That's
right?
insane. No, it's not objectively. Jason Tatum has played against Giannis and KD and been amazing.
I said this series, my friend. I didn't say in the playoffs. I said this series so far in the first 2 games.
You're talking about how they performed, or are you talking about who I think is a better player?
I was saying who's been the best player in the series so far in the first 2 games, and even though Jimmy was one-on-one.
It's definitely not been Jason Tatum.
It's been Jimmy Butler. He had 40 points, he had 29. No one helped him. I said in this series, not in the playoffs.
Jimmy Butler. So what do you think of Jimmy Butler's first half tonight before he got injured?
I think he did amazing.
Okay.
You know what he did?
Well, you know his impact.
You know what he did? He listened to the game plan and he gave Bam the ball.
Yeah.
I've never seen him give Bam the ball that much. And Bam, I've never seen Bam call for the ball that much. That's literally asking for the ball in the high post, and just Jimmy was deferring to him. Like Jimmy.
My bad.
Yeah. No, you're good. Jimmy had like 3 shots in like the first half. Like he was just like playing good defensively, right, in the passing lanes, and he was just like moving the ball around, letting Kyle and Bam do their thing, right? So he didn't have the opportunity to be impactful on the offensive end because he only played 1 half. But like Bam literally shot, I think, 10 shots in the first quarter, and that was the same amount in the first 2 games, right? So Jimmy just like, hey, we're gonna try to let Bam be aggressive. Let's see what happens, and he was making his shots. So he was absent in the sense of he was just letting the other star on the team finally show up.
He played 20 minutes before he was injured. He had 8 points, shot 3 for 8 from the field. In the third quarter, as you said, they broke even, 25 points apiece. I don't know why, but it felt like to me the Celtics had the better quarter, just momentum-wise, because I felt like they kept inching closer. But you guys kind of got it back up to 15 by the end of the quarter. I think when I thought they started driving and kicking a little bit more, getting good looks, and Al Horford was making threes. Finally, Al Horford starting to show up. Then Marcus Smart got hurt, and that looked like a bad ankle injury. I did not think he was going to come back. What did you think of that? Because, he wasn't necessarily having a great game, but I thought for a second it was like he may be out for the series. But maybe that was overreaction.
No, I mean, I didn't know what it was at first. Thought it could have been like a knee injury. I also thought they were going to call the foul on the Miami Heat for some reason, just because that's the way the whistle has been blown throughout the game. So I was just confused of what the call was, and then I was confused of how he got hurt, and then you saw how he landed completely on the ankle sideways, right? And so, yeah, I give him credit and respect for gutting it out. I mean,
he came back. That was extremely impressive.
Want to be a Willis Reed kind of scenario, or maybe a Paul Pierce coming out in a wheelchair. But yeah, I mean, it just in my mind, I just want this Heat team to play against the most healthy opponent possible, just because everybody on Twitter and just all these soft ass NBA fans everywhere just have so many excuses and complaints, especially in real time. You don't talk about it as much after the season's over. But just there's been so many complaints about injuries generally, which sucks, and then specifically with the Heat, like Capella, Collins weren't 100%. Capella missed a game. Embiid missed a couple games. I didn't want it to be a part of the narrative now that like Marcus Smart is out for an extended time. But again, the media doesn't like Miami. We never get credit. No one talks about Kyle Lowry being out.
When you had LeBron, you did.
Well, sure, that's fair, but we're not talking about that team. And but no one talks about Lowry being out. Like he's missed more than half the playoffs, and like it's like you saw how impactful he is, and no one cares about that. And then also even thinking about last year with like the Suns, like their run, like if they won the championship, you'd be like, oh, Chris Paul finally won a championship. The Suns are amazing. What a like heroic, epic swing, like from going from like 15 wins a year with Booker, no help, to getting Chris Paul, the point fraud. He's not. He's one of the best point guards.
I don't thank God on this show.
I don't
say a guy with no rings.
No rings. I can't. One time in the finals, but like if they won, there's no complaints last year about like, oh, AD missed games. They beat the Lakers in the first round, and then like, oh, second round no Jamal Murray, and then like, oh, third round no Kawhi Leonard. They made it to the finals. Like that seems more like obscene than like what the Heat had to deal with. Like Embiid came back. Like I know the thumb injury was more aggravating and more of an issue, I feel like, than the orbital issue, right? Because that's on his shooting hand. But I mean, he was there for 4 games, and like, still, all I hear is just like the Heat are lucky because they talk about the injuries, but they don't talk about our injuries. And
the only thing with Embiid is he looked scared in Game 6 to go to the paint. I thought he was maybe scared to get it in the face or something. But what did you think? That was ridiculous. That he was just chucking up jumpers in that game. But
yeah. I mean, Bam was also played spectacular on him on defense in Game 6. Specifically, shot 7 for 24. Bam got a few blocks.
I think he also settled though. Like I know Bam's such a great defender, but Embiid. I mean, we could go all day about Embiid, but I mean, he should be able to shoot better than attack somebody in the post or something. Unless he was, to me, I thought my theory was that he was scared to get hit in the face. But let's go with. So going in, the fourth quarter was very eventful, and Marcus Smart, as you said, came back towards the end of the third quarter. One thing I have to say, I was watching the game with some of my friends, and they're pointing it out, and I really agreed. And we've had this. There's been a criticism for the Jays, both of the Jays, with this, but they get some really bad tunnel vision sometimes. Don't just move the ball quickly. Jason Tatum's gone a lot better with this, but he had those moments tonight that he reverted back to the old Tatum, and just the Heat did such a great job closing the gaps and just helping at well-timed help. And they just were not moving the ball fast enough. And then we had Jason Tatum get hurt. So, and it looked like a shoulder injury or something?
Maybe a stinger, funny bone. Who knows?
Yeah, that was another. I thought that my bad. I thought it wasn't a situation where I thought he was going to miss even the next game, but I thought, oh, maybe he's out for this game. But overall, I think, he also came back. That's another Paul Pierce, like, as you say, can we want to be Paul Pierce or Willis Reed moment? JT coming back. But I think the Heat are the ones that they had the biggest injury. It was Jimmy Butler missing the entire half. Smart and Tatum came back. So the fact that you guys still won the game is a testament to, as you said, the depth and just how well coached this Heat team is and resilient team and the performance of Bam. But I also, want to give flowers to Jaylen Brown. He was amazing. He was hitting tough shots, jumpers, step backs, getting to the basket. What were you thinking of the way he was heating up? Because he cut the game down to 1 point, 93-92. Anybody that wasn't Oladipo, he was going at them. They were trying to hunt Max Strus in the pick and roll. And, man, Jaylen Brown was turning the corner on guys. He was putting on the whole show. One of the best playoff games of his entire career.
Yep, 40 points, still lost.
Wow.
Gotta love that feeling. Jimmy Butler said if he scored 40 points in that game 1 and lost, he'd be so freaking pissed. So I wonder how Jalen's feeling tonight. Mid-range.
I think he's pissed. Yeah, when he's getting in the mid-range and he's embracing it, pulling
mid-range,
up.
Mid-range, wet, first quarter, kept him in the game, besides the refs. Refs, 100%. We should have won by 20. They should not have been close. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to.
They're the reason why the Celtics made a push is because of the refs.
27-5 in free throws in the fourth, going into the fourth quarter. They had 20. Yes, they had like. Yes, yeah. They had like 18-5 on the turnover. Like come on, we were like rebounds were close. They started getting like good offensive rebounds because the Celtics started shooting a lot more threes, and Williams and Horford were starting to get some offensive boards, Smart as well, to keep them close. Besides the free throws, but going back to Brown, yeah, mid range was wet. He had like 12 points in the first quarter, down 21 in the first quarter. Like if he missed a few of those shots, it could have been 26 or 27 going into the second quarter. And then third quarter, fourth quarter, he was just attacking, driving to the rim, right? Getting up and under scoops, just driving by his defender. And so like he kept them in the game. And then the fourth quarter, also he started making those threes late in the game to even keep them even closer. Cut it down to 1, cut it down to 9, cut it down to 8, and then cut it down to 1 eventually. Super impressive, but like again, sometimes his issue, I thought, was that him and Tatum were taking shots quickly early in the shot clock and semi-contested, versus trying to get to the basket or get to that mid-range. Like Jason Tatum specifically, like I don't feel like he had like any baskets at the rim, right? Like I feel like what was he 3 for 14?
3 for 14, yeah. This was his worst game maybe of the playoffs this year, I thought.
Yeah, like
game 1, because in game 1 at least he had a good first half. This was just bad. Game 3 against the Bucks, he was no good either. So I would say those 3 games. But he's been amazing in the playoffs overall, but just not a great night for him. And I think that he's really the main reason why they lost. I mean, he's the best player. He's the guy. He's the guy who outplayed KD in a series, who outplayed Giannis in the last 2 games of the series. And it was a tough night for him. But Jaylen Brown got the C's back in the game. Jason Tatum came back in the game, and they were feeding the hot hand, which I liked at the end with Jaylen Brown, not really going to Tatum as much, even though he had Kyle Lowry on him on switches on occasion. They didn't go to him. But, hindsight is 20/20. I always say feed the hot hand.
100%. I agree with that.
But you guys, PJ Tucker, before we get into that, I want to get into the final plays that were made, the big plays. PJ Tucker, big game from him. 2 offensive rebounds, 7 rebounds overall. Great defense. 17 points, though. I talked about last game. He was being hesitant to shoot, not taking that push shot when it was there, traveled and just kind of passed up open shots. Tonight, 5 for 10 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3. He brings that toughness, that energy. What did you think of PJ tonight?
Defense always there. He's always going to be aggressive. He's like our Draymond Green. He's like our Marcus Smart. And so you saw him again on free throws, boxing out Jason Tatum, talking to him, pushing him around, right? Trying to get into his head. Just love his effort on the offensive board. And threes, obviously no hesitation. A lot of times he likes to try to like hand it back off to Tyler or Lowry or whoever, Vincent, instead of just shooting it quickly. And he had a couple wide open shots, but he did make one of those threes that was contested. So just huge shots. He made a couple nice push shots, I believe, in the first quarter, and in the fourth quarter, he had one bunny that he missed that I thought he was going to lose the game for us because we're up 4. Bam had an amazing pass, got double teamed. He cut to the hoop. He had a reverse layup, and he freaking basically airballed it off the backboard. But he made up for it, hitting some big clutch free throws towards the end. So game 1, he shot like 50% from the free throw line, and he hit, I think, 4 huge free throws when we were down 6 or up 6, and up 8 to take it back up to an 8-point lead or a 10-point lead. So very clutch when necessary. Defense is always going to be there, but it's just if he's ever getting over 10 points for you, then there's a high chance we're going to win, right? If he's in the 15, 17 point range and Max Strus is playing well and Bam's playing well, right? And if Jimmy was there, he would have been in double digits. If we can get like 4 to 5 guys in double digits, I feel like the Heat are going to win no matter what because of their defense. And the 3-point shot just hasn't been there, and that's our bread and butter. And that makes me optimistic about potentially winning the championship. And so we've been shooting 38% in the regular season, number one in the NBA. I think we're like at 29 to 30% in the playoffs. And we have not got back a single game where we even have been close to over 38%. And we've still won 2 series, and we're up 2-1 in this series, right? I honestly think 36% is the best we've done. We started off pretty good with PJ hitting some, Strus hitting some threes, Vincent, Lowry. I think we started off like 40% or high 50s, right, to start off like almost the first half, and then we started missing shots because Celtics played better D, but we still missed a lot of open shots. So I think 3-point shooting is one of the biggest aspects in this entire series, just because we're both such good defenders.
Series, to be honest,
almost every in the NBA now, the way that the teams operate, it's just like Celtics were 10 for 12, and I didn't watch the last game. Honestly, I watched the first quarter, but I was in Denver for a work conference, so I wasn't able to. So I watched the first quarter, and that was all I needed to see was just 10 for 12. And then the final score, which I think you texted me later in the night, I didn't notice that it was 20 out of 40. I'm like, if the Sacramento Kings or the Houston Rockets or the Orlando Magic were somehow in a 1-game playoff playing against the best teams in the NBA, if they put up that number, like 23s out of 40, they would have won the game most likely. Like any team can win. If you're making 60 points.
But they got to create those shots, though, against your defense. The Sacramento Kings are not getting those same shot quality attempts against playoff Miami Heat defense.
Fair.
Well, so let's go fourth quarter, 31-22 Celtics. They won that quarter, but the plays that really kind of sealed the deal, when Jaylen Brown made that 3 to make it 93-92, Max Strus came off the screen and just caught and shot and made a 3 to answer back and quiet the crowd to make it 96-92. What a shot that was. And then I believe it was Bam hitting a Kobe Bryant-esque pump fake, got the guy in the air, leaned in, threw it up, didn't even get the whistle, and still made the shot. Heat went up by 6. And what did you think of those plays? I mean, incredible plays. Bam Adebayo continued his great play throughout the game, even though he was better in the first half. And they maybe should have gone to him a little bit more in the fourth quarter. He was just amazing. He made the big shot.
I mean, a fluke maybe, but he didn't get the whistle. Again, the Zebras weren't in our favor of this game. So, I mean, but just a big time shot, like awareness. He had good awareness that, like, I don't know why. I forgot who passed him the ball. It was one of our guards had the ball with like 3 seconds left, and they, instead of taking the baseline shot or driving baseline, they handed off to Bam. Good awareness to make that shot, got fouled, didn't get it, but just loved his confidence. I feel like the confidence that he had, the aggressiveness that he had helped influence, like he had enough rhythm and confidence to like make that shot, right? He wasn't hesitant about that.
At all.
Not at all. Max Strus just very clutch for us in the fourth quarter. That 3 put us up back by 10. I think PJ hit a shot after that, or a 3, put us back up to like 13 with like 4 minutes to go. And so I was starting to feel a little more confident. Like, as long as our defense can play well, we can rebound, not turn over the ball, stop fouling them, because they were in the bonus, I feel like, with like 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. I felt super confident. And you know, they just kept coming back. You know, Brown hit some shots. Horford hit a 3. Smart hit a 3. Got an offensive rebound. And when they brought it down to 4 points and then 1 point with that Jaylen Brown 3, who came up big again with a few minutes to go. I think it was maybe like a minute 47 or so, 2 minutes left in the game when they came back within 1. And who comes off a screen on the left wing, and it's Max Strus with a catch and shoot, 27-foot 3, nothing but net. Just the confidence of just to catch and shoot, no conscience, like just thinks he belongs, showing the Celtics hopefully made a huge mistake by cutting him. That was huge. That put us back up by 4. And then I think Bam then scored.
Yeah, the jumper.
that jumper that was right after,
That
right?
shot clock violation too that you guys had. That
Yeah.
they had, I should say, that you forced them into. So big time defense, big time shot. Jason Tatum turned the ball over with 1:09 left as well, and PJ Tucker made.
The finally share turning red reminds me that if you stay true to who you are, you'll.
Jesus.
What was that commercial of?
Yeah, well, no, it was a commercial because I'm seeing the final. I'm being reminded of the final plays, but Marcus Smart had another bonehead sequence tonight at the end when it was a 6-point game with a minute left. First, they let the shot. They got you guys down to 10 on the shot clock, and he fouled then when they were over the limit. Like, are you gonna? It was a 2-possession game, like 48 seconds left. Just if you're not gonna foul, you're not gonna foul. If you're gonna foul quick. Not wait for the shot clock because now it's going to reset to 14. Even if it wasn't even if you weren't over the limit. So that was bonehead. Put somebody to the line. I forget who. You took the 8-point lead, and then the inbounds where he didn't realize Kyle Lowry was right behind him, and Kyle Lowry made a classic Kyle Lowry play. He had his good and bad moments in the game. Yeah, it looked a little bit rusty, but he made a big play. And then was it Strus, I think, that finished it. And that basically sealed the win for the Miami Heat, taking a 2-1 series lead, taking home court advantage back to Wade County. 109-103, 2-1 in favor of the Heat. Just tell me your thoughts. Big win.
So I was on my podcast earlier today, and we did a Suns. We did a Warriors Mavs recap and then a preview for the Heat game, and we all picked the Heat to lose today. So I picked the Heat to lose by, I think, 7.
You picked your own team to lose?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I'm not a homer. I'm not biased. I'm not delusional.
Game 3. It's a 50-50 shot.
Well, I just thought the momentum, right? Like the Celtics are confident after winning huge. They're playing in the Garden, right? And I just thought that home court advantage would carry in from the momentum they had from the last game, and that they would win. And it's harder to steal that game typically, right? But I thought Game 4 would be the game that we could potentially steal. So pleasantly surprised, happy we won home court advantage back. So just super excited. Wasn't expecting us to win this game. Was hoping that we would steal one, and I knew we would steal one. And I just didn't think we would blow Game 2 as badly as we did, or lose home court advantage, because we were 7-0, at home, just like the Warriors were, right? The only 2 teams that didn't lose at home. So happy we got to steal one. Huge bounce back game from the Miami Heat, again showing their resilience, but also just a huge game for Bam Adebayo. If we get this Bam Adebayo, like, not necessarily a 31-10-7 Bam, but if we can get a Bam who can score his season averages, which are 21 points a game, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, instead of like 13 points.
21 points a game?
20 points a game, excuse me. So he averaged 20, 10, like 3, block and a steal. But in the playoffs, he's been averaging like 13 points, 7 rebounds. Hero, we didn't really even talk about, was 21 off the bench, 6th man of the year. He's been averaging like 12, 13 points himself. If we can just get them to go back and to their mean, just to what they're averaging, and the way Jimmy's been playing, right? If he's not seriously hurt, which I don't think he is, I don't see this team losing. Like, with the depth that we have, right? With the defensive mentality we have, with players like Strus and Oladipo, now Lowry back, like, I don't see us losing if Bam can be the Bam of the Eastern Conference final bubble, right? And Hero doesn't even need to get back to like the 6th man. If he can get to like 16 points a game, 17 points a game, and not 12 points a game, and shooting 5 for 20 or whatever he shot for tonight, I think we have the depth, and Jimmy Butler is showing that he's one of those guys. Like he's in that conversation. Playoff Jimmy is in the conversation for top 10. He's in the conversation.
Definitely.
100%. He's in the conversation of top 5 of the playoffs currently. Like,
yeah, definitely.
The entire playoffs.
Amazing. Yeah.
Top 3, maybe, right? I mean, maybe like it could be Giannis, Luka, Jimmy, like in this entire playoff so far.
If he beats Tatum, I'll say that. But Tatum is right there.
He didn't show it tonight. I mean, that's unacceptable. If you want to be a superstar and you shoot 4 for 13 at home.
Jimmy hasn't had a bad shooting night in this playoffs.
Not like that. He's the most efficient scorer like he's shooting 55% in these playoffs. Like,
All right. Well, I'll give him the edge for now. But you,
What's your-
is it fair to say they've played better teams?
yeah, oh for sure.
Okay. All right, fair enough. I'm gonna read the box scores for the Celtics. They had 3 guys that played 13 or more minutes off the bench. Those are the usual suspects: Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, and Grant Williams. Peyton Pritchard only played 13 minutes today. He was great in game 2. Only got 1 shot off today and made it. But he was +7, so I thought his minutes were actually pretty decent. Derek White, donut, 0 for 2. Congratulations to him. Had a kid, missed game 2. Not really much there for me. Had a nice strip at one point, but also just didn't make the right play at times. I can't think of exact specifics, but I remember there was one time I thought he should have swung the ball, but he was whatever. And then 39 minutes played for Grant Williams, 10 points, 5 boards, 2 for 6 from the field, and 2 for 4 from 3. He was solid as usual, but they ran him off the line. They didn't let him get too many open looks like the Milwaukee Bucks did in game 7. And did Grant Williams shoot well last game?
I'm not sure. I didn't watch the last game, so I mean I watch every single game, but
whatever.
I wasn't able to. But I don't think
He's been shooting well in the playoffs. Let's put it that way.
100%.
Only 11 minutes for Tice. Didn't even get a shot off, 1 point. And then the other 4, the best 4 players in the squad, Al Horford. He played 42 minutes, had 20 points and 14 rebounds. I thought he did not have a very good first half. I know the stat line definitely doesn't reflect how well that's stat line does him a little bit too much. I don't want to say it doesn't do him justice. It does him too much justice. Didn't have a good first half to me, but second half he was really good. 20 points, 14 boards, 7 for 14 shooting, and 3 for 5 from deep. And then Marcus Smart, 16 points, 4 boards, 7 assists. Thought he started playing better in the second half, but just made some bad plays and just made some low IQ plays early in the game and then very late in the game. 6 for 11 from the field, 1 for 4 from deep. And then the Jays, Tatum, as we said, 10 points, 6 boards, 4 assists, 6 turnovers, 3 for 14 shooting, and 1 for 7 from deep. Only got 4 free throws and made 3 of them. And then Jaylen Brown, 40 points, 14 for 20, 3 for 9 from deep, and 9 of 12 from the line. Definitely 75% is not good enough for somebody shooting that well to me. I don't know. He should not be missing so many free throws. The Celtics shot 23 for 30 from the line, 37.5% from deep, 12 for 32, and then 48.6% from the field, even with the Heat's great defense. But they turned the ball over 23 times, 7 turnovers for Jaylen Brown and 4 for Marcus Smart. So 13 for the Jays alone out of 23. That's the game right there.
That's the game. And I looked it up too. Grant Williams had 19 and 4 in game 2.
He had a great game then.
2 for 2 from 3. So he had a spectacular game. But again, 23-8 in turnovers. It's the Zebras, man. As great as Jalen played, as great as Horford played, that just makes me even more embarrassed for the Celtics. If you're a Celtics fan, that Al Horford put up 20 and 14 and Jaylen Brown put up 40 and you lost.
It was Jason Tatum. It was the Jason
Tatum, look in the mirror. Like, still, Marcus Smart had a pretty damn good game, even though he got injured. He didn't miss that much time. He missed like a few minutes in the game, right? 3 minutes. So, I mean, Jaylen Brown had more than double the free throws than the Heat did going into the fourth quarter. Like, I'm sorry. Like, we consistently kept that double-digit lead until the maybe 6-minute mark or 5-minute mark of the fourth quarter when they finally got it down to 9. We brought it back to 12, 13, back to 8, finally down to 4 to 1. And then we took it back to the double-digit lead. The constant was the refs because the Celtics kept shooting themselves in the foot with those turnovers. Tatum has averaged 5 or 6 turnovers in this playoff series thus far, and that's also unacceptable. I know game 1, there's no Smart, but like Smart's not even a true point guard. I know he's a better playmaker and a better guard in that sense, but like Tatum in game 1 had like 7 turnovers, 6 in that third quarter. When he was, playing more on the ball. But still, like, come on, you got to be better than that. That's like reminding me of James freaking Harden, right? Like freaking Pillsbury Doughboy over here, just turning the ball over all day. But still, like, Jaylen Brown had 12 free throws in the fourth, and we had 5 as a team. Like, that's unacceptable. Like, the refs literally were giving everything to the Celtics. We were not getting anything. There's also one where Grant Williams looked like he played good on Bam, where Bam had a turnaround jumper at the end, or he was attempting a turnaround at the free throw line, and he swiped the ball out of his hands right before the shot clock. And they showed the replay. Like, yeah, sure, he got some ball, but he also slapped him across the wrist, and they actually did a review and they overturned it. Like, come on, like if it's hand, that's fine. Hand's part of the ball. I play basketball. You know,
Yeah.
I don't call weak shit. Again, I'm a '90s child. Like, I think the NBA is the softest sport right now. I think badminton has more contact now than basketball. Like, no joke.
Even after this year's rule changes,
Even after last year was just like obscene. The
the
fouls.
last couple of years were just ridiculous. Some of them.
Luca, fucking Harden, Trey, they changed the freaking rules because of them. But they clearly slapped him on the wrist right here.
Yeah.
Right here. Like, you get him here, you get him here, you get him here, and swipe the ball. Even if you touch the ball first, like, you still followed through while he still had the ball in his hands and hit his wrist, and they didn't overturn it. Another BS thing, too, was Marcus Smart went up for a shot in the first quarter and elbowed Bam in the face.
Oh, yeah, I remember
and
that.
They called a foul on Bam. And then third quarter, second quarter, Caleb Martin does a Euro step against Martin, elbows him in the face, doesn't extend his elbow. He just goes up like this, hits him, doesn't extend out, and they call an offensive foul on him. Like, where's the consistency on that? Like, it was literally the same fucking play. Excuse my language if I'm not tripping.
No, this is a dime dropper. It's very uncensored.
So yeah, fuck this shit, dude. So, like, literally it was the same. It's just so inconsistent, and that's across all games, not just this series. So, yeah, I mean, the turnover game, that tells you a story right there. Like,
Yeah.
like almost 90% of teams, if they have that ratio, 20 whatever the hell it was, 2-8, 26-8, you're not going to win a game, right? Especially when the numbers are that close in terms of field goal percentage, assists.
They're very close. 47% for the Heat shooting the ball, 33% from deep, almost the exact same amount of attempts. You guys shot 33, made 11 of them. They shot 32, made 12 of them. 12 for 14 from the line for you guys. So even though you didn't get many free throw attempts, at least you made them. You took care of the ball. You guys went pretty deep in the bag of players tonight. Duncan Robinson played 4 minutes. Dwayne Dedmon played 3 minutes, but you really played an 8-man rotation. Caleb Martin, 10 minutes, but 20 minutes each for Oladipo and Hero. Oladipo had 5 points and 4 steals, but talk about a stat line that does him no justice at all for how well he really played. Unbelievable performance. And then Tyler Hero, 4 for 15, 8 points, 0 for 6 from deep. Tell me what you thought of those two performances. Kind of opposite ends of the spectrum, I think, on this one.
Yeah, if you're a casual, you think Oladipo's a scrub, unless you watch the entire game as well. Because if you weren't watching, then you just think, oh, he's 1 for 4, not really making much of an impact. And even without the steals, like, he was locking up Jaylen Brown. Like, he was making him uncomfortable, making him take some bad shots. He was just amazing. Like, he's got that footwork, like that second surgery, I think, has done him justice so far, right? I think he has his legs under him. He has confidence. He didn't need to score necessarily, right? It was more of just a defensive impact that he had.
Yeah.
And he was making Jaylen uncomfortable, which was wonderful. And then Tyler Hero is just, I'm at my wit's end with that guy, man.
Ball stopping, holding the ball too long, taking tough shots.
Yeah, man, just like some bad passes, just like not great at defense. We were playing the zone to protect him, I think. Like, obviously it was an adjustment. They weren't making shots, but Hero and Duncan were on the floor at the same time, so I think you definitely got to play zone to protect them too. But if he's not scoring, then he's a liability on defense, and he's like the biggest negative, like, in terms of plus and minus, like, on the Heat in the entire playoffs. And he's due for an extension and a max, and he's not showing that he's worthy right now. There's different reasons for why he hasn't been effective in each series, but there's no excuse at this point. Like the inconsistencies just needs to end. Like, he's had a few impactful games, but like only a handful across the entire playoffs, right? Like, out of 11 or 12 games, he's had like 3 or 4 good games. And it's just like unacceptable. Again, he's averaging like 12 points a game, down from 21 points per game. And yeah, I just like Bam, he needs to have some pride and some moxie, right? And like have an ego to say like, hey, I'm gonna get my buckets. Like Peyton Pritchard did the too small gesture to Spo and the bench, in game 2. And just like, I know he's a tenacious kind of annoying defender, but like you got to take advantage of that versus when Jaylen Brown's on you, because he doesn't do good against size, or Tatum switches on him. That's respectable. Horford switches on him. Williams, either Williams, like that's tough because they're strong and tall. But not taking advantage of White, not taking advantage of Pritchard, even Marcus Smart, who is the defense player of the year. He's had his moments against him back in the bubble when he dropped 37 on him. It's just in the playoffs, you got to show up. And Pat Riley, the Godfather, says that playoffs will tell that if this player is deemed worthy of a contract and a future with the team, playoffs will tell. And he hasn't done shit in the playoffs this year or last year. Bubble, he did. That was his breakout, right? So he had his breakout and then regressed a little bit or just didn't do as well. His sophomore year had the slump, and then elevated his game, this year, and the lights shine the brightest in the playoffs, and he's not showing up right now. And my question to you is, if you're the Heat, you give him a max?
No,
based on this performance.
Not a max. I don't think Tyler Hero's worth a max. But anyway, let's go to this. Gabe Vincent also 19 minutes, 1 of 4 from the field. Didn't have the best shooting night like the last 2 games. But then the starters now, besides Jimmy, who we already talked about, Strus, 16 points, 6 for 12 from the field, and 4 for 7 from deep. He was awesome. Kyle Lowry, 29 minutes played, 4 for 11, 2 for 7 from deep, 11 points, 6 rebounds. 11.6 assists, 4 steals, and only 2 turnovers. So he took care of the ball. Decent compared to the Celtics, at least. And then PJ Tucker, 17.7 boards, 5 for 10 from the field, 3 for 6 from deep. Bam Adebayo, the player of the game, easy. 31, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals, and a block, plus 17, 42 minutes, 15 for 22. Only 1 free throw. So that's a lot of shots made, a lot of field goals made, and he shot very well. He was the man.
Indeed.
But any last words? Plug your own podcast as well. But it's going to be a good series. It's interesting to have somebody that rooting for the Heat on the podcast, because I don't think we've had one yet. But plug yourself, because you just made a podcast.
Yeah, so I just started a podcast with a couple of my friends. It's funny, we call it the Boozers Basketball Podcast. So just a podcast.
Is it Carlos Boozer? No, I'm just kidding.
No, definitely not. The joke was going to be like, yeah, Carlos Boozer's our favorite basketball player, so that's why we named it. No, I was thinking like the Hoosiers, the Boozers, and then just drinking some beers, talking basketball with friends.
Yeah.
So, so it's me. I'm a Heat fan. My friend is a Laker fan, and then the other co-host is just an NBA fan, doesn't have a team. So it's called the Boozers Basketball Podcast. So just putting out content. There's no real cadence, just the playoffs. So we're putting out as many podcasts as we can. So we'll try to put out like 2 to 3 per week. Hopefully we can get you as a guest one of these next times for one of our recaps. Haven't done a live yet. Still trying to build up an audience, but
I don't think you can go live to get 1,000. Can you?
I don't know. No, you could do like the premiere thing, I guess, or whatever. Like you could schedule it like in the future. So
yeah. You can premiere is different, but
yeah. We don't need you live. You can come on a pre-recorded if you're down.
I'm down for whatever. You so you're only on YouTube?
Just on YouTube for now. Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna put it on podcasts eventually, but for now it's just on YouTube.
For sure. So hey, thanks for coming on. This was fun talking again. I hope it'll probably not be the last time. You're good at this, man. You're actually pretty good at this. I mean, it's pretty natural. If it's the one and only what? Have you even done 10 yet?
Nah, I think.
Dude, you seem like you've been doing it for a while. But we got a couple questions, by the way, in the live. By the way, if you guys are asking me, I know I'm surprised you guys haven't asked this yet, but am I going to talk about the game from last night? I actually didn't get to watch it with the magnifying glass that is worthy for a recap. So what I'm going to try to do is watch a little bit of it tomorrow before the game, and then I'll kind of like do 2 in 1 in a way, just talk about it and move on to the game 3. So sorry, Warriors fans. Sorry, Mavs fans. I don't know how many Mavs fans I really got, but Warriors fans, I know there's a couple that listen to me. Apologies. Big time second half, though. I saw that.
Oh, yeah.
But let's see. We had some questions. What do you consider Eric Spo now as a coach all time? You know me. I'm big into history. I'd actually have to sit down and make a list. Definitely not top 5. I think Spo's great. Top 10, maybe. There's a lot of great coaches that don't get talked about in the history of the league. So, yeah, I think we could go. I'd have to sit down and think about it. He's great, though. He's building up the resume. And I mean, I'm not going to – whatever it is right now on my list, if I make one, it's not going to be changed whether he wins or loses this. Actually, no, it's not going to be changed if he loses this series. But if he wins the championship,
It should be.
we can reconsider this conversation.
What do you? Well, going back real quick, what do you define? Like, how do you define
A great
an
coach?
all-time coach? Is it just rings? Like,
I
is
guess
that
I guess rings and how you I guess the teams that you coach and how you get them. But I still think winning rings is. I mean, what? Spo's got 2 rings. Yeah, with the big 3. Yeah, everybody's
three
talent, man.
technically? He had one as an assistant when the
You're
when
right.
he
He
was an
has that
assistant
ring.
on
I'm
the
just talking about
Sixers.
as a head coach. Was
Yeah, yeah.
talking that, but yeah, I'd say a lot of it rings. Definitely, my top 10 would probably all be guys that have rings. Even though, like, respect to the Don Nelsons, the Jerry Sloans, but there's a lot of great coaches like Red Holzman, Alex Hannum, who the only coach to beat Bill Russell in his career, coached Wilt and actually got Wilt to buy in, which was not easy. But we can go all day with that one. Turnovers, was it more Celtics carelessness or Heat defense stirring things up? What do you think about that? I guess
Both.
but yeah, it's definitely both. My answer is whatever lens you're looking at it from. If you're a Heat fan, you're going to say it's your defense. If you're a Celtics fan, you're going to say we just had unforced errors, which they had a little bit of both.
I'd say as a non-biased Heat fan, both, because you saw
Yeah.
the amazing defense by Kyle Lowry, on-ball defense with Victor Oladipo. They both had 4 steals each. So it was kind of a combination of both. I think Marcus Smart was kind of lazy at times with passing. Same with Jason Tatum. So
Absolutely. And then taking too long to pass sometimes as well. Someone, Kyle's take says, is that a blue Yeti that's intended for you?
I think so.
Yeah, it is. It is from the looks of it.
It looks pretty silver to me, but yeah,
That's what
sure.
it looks like. Kyle's take says, who are the injured players today that you think is going to play next game? I think, honestly, they're all going to play.
Everybody.
Smart may feel it, though, bad tomorrow.
Yeah, he's not going to have that adrenaline, but I think the way he looked, he should be fine.
If you're the Heat, do you not risk it with Jimmy if he can't go and just say we're going 2-2 back to Miami or not?
I feel like you just like shoot him up in the knee. I thought he was going to come back in this game.
Cortisone?
Yeah, man. Just get him a little shot.
With Reed style.
That's tough, man. I think if it's Kyle Lowry, maybe you say Kyle Lowry can be shelved, but I don't think you could sit Jimmy Butler. Like, and he's the type of guy who's not going to want to sit. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm curious though. Like, do you think he made that decision to sit out, or do you think it was the training staff?
Training staff, probably. I think he's competitive like that.
There's no way, right? Like PJ Tucker would be like, okay, I'm gonna like. I think
it depends on how much pain he was in too. Could he? Because was he limping? Like,
I didn't see anything, but
that's
like,
what I'm saying. Nobody saw anything.
Imagine the as tough as Jimmy is. Imagine the training staff telling PJ you can't come out. I think he starts like throwing blows to training staff. Right, that guy is an ultimate competitor. So I'm happy he was back on the floor as well because he had, that knee issue as well, that contusion. So happy to see him healthy on the floor.
Kyle's take says 3 Heat players had 4 steals.
Who was the third?
I'm not sure. I'd have to go back to the box where I literally just closed it out. Apologies.
It wasn't Bam, right? You said
PJ
Bam.
Tucker? I don't know. But anyway, he said, crazy how LeBron tried to get Spo fired in 2010. Yeah, that's a story. Kyle's take says, are winning seasons a factor when it comes to all-time rankings of coaches, like regular seasons? I mean, I guess, but it's like also just team dependent. You know what I mean? Like, it really is all about the talent that you're coaching. At the end of the day, it's a player's sport, and you're not winning championships without talent. And I know you can kind of make the playoffs without a lot of talent, but you still need some guys. Like, for example, Glenn Rivers, you can say that he did a really good job with our 2019 team, but that would be sliding what Lou Williams and Montrader did, and Gallinari and SGA and Zoo and all those guys. So that's my answer to that. But
who's the Hawks coach those years where they had
Bob Pettit? No.
Well, no, I mean when they had Horford and
Mike Budenholzer.
Was it Budenholzer?
Budenholzer. I like Budenholzer, but he's not in this conversation.
That's what I'm saying though. Like that Atlanta team was like the 1 seed a few years, right? They had like 4 All-Stars one year with like was it Teague and Korver
and all those guys had the best seasons of their career.
But no one remembers that shit. I mean, if Bud didn't win last year with the Bucks, like he wouldn't be in that conversation, right? No one would care and like remember those regular seasons.
This thing that East was weak. 2016 East, that whole 2010s East, 2000s East has been weak. But still, though, I get nothing. Not to take away from the Hawks. Those guys hooped that season. But LeBron and them that was their first year together, and the Hawks had built some good momentum from going to 7 the previous year with the Pacers, and they were the 8 seed. But anyway, that's my answer to that. But my guy, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it, and hopefully we'll have you on again.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Have a good night, everybody. We'll be back. I'll be back tomorrow night.